What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell as well if you want to get notified every single time I upload a brand new video. Now, in this video today, going to be talking about the AFC kind of as a whole, obviously how the Ravens are fitting in with them, because I was sitting at work today. We have, ESPN and all those programs going on at TV. On the TVs, and I saw them talking about, can the Ravens compete with the Chiefs and Bills? And I was like, that's interesting. Yes. It's interesting that they always bring this up. This idea that the Ravens somehow can't compete with the Chiefs or the Bills. Like, I don't understand the narrative, how that happens. It's not like the Ravens go and play the Chiefs or the Bills and they get blown out by 50 every time, right? That's not the case. The Ravens have lost games to the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson's lost a game or 2 games to the Buffalo Bills, one of the playoffs, one of the regular season. Those were extremely close games against the Bills. And the playoff one, ended up not being that close. Lamar obviously got the concussion, couldn't return to the game, but it was also a very windy game, kind of a difficult weather game in the playoffs. If you remember, Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals in that game. I think Tyler Bass also missed 2 field goals, or he missed an extra point and maybe a field goal. It was a very windy game, very difficult conditions to play in. He did not play his best game, not trying to defend that performance. That was a game that they could have won. And the game this year where they lost, that literally came down to a 1 second left field goal. Like, the Ravens were winning by a lot. They were winning by double digits. Shout out to the Ravens. Double digit in every game, double digit lead. They've blown 3 of them so far, but they've been in that game. The last time the Ravens played the Chiefs, they beat them. They beat the Chiefs the last time they played them. Why is there this narrative like, oh, the Ravens can't beat the Chiefs? The last time they played, the Ravens won. In primetime football, Lamar Jackson took down Patrick Mahomes. Tyreek Hill played. Travis Kelce played. The Chiefs don't even have Tyreek Hill anymore. I still think the Chiefs are a very good team. I think if I had to pick a team to come out of the AFC, I wasn't including the Ravens whatsoever, I'd probably take the Chiefs over the Bills. But at the same time, let's not act like the Ravens can't beat them, because they have. And they haven't played them in the playoffs before. Lamar Jackson's lost to Patrick Mahomes, I believe, 3 times in his career. I believe he's 1-3. He lost his rookie year in a very close game. Tyreek Hill had that 4th and 21 reception across the middle of the field. 2019, the Ravens lost to the Chiefs in week 3 of that season. And it was a rough game. But overall, the Ravens played pretty poorly, and they turned it around in 2019. They made a trade for Marcus Peters. The final score, I think, was 14 points or 10 points or something like that, but it was a blowout. That was a bad game. The next time was 2020, and the Ravens played them, and it was close. It was a good game, but for some reason, no credit. No credit for the Ravens. No credit for Lamar. Because 2021, Ravens beat them. I don't understand this narrative, this idea that the Ravens can't beat the Chiefs. Again, I'm not saying you throw them in and Ravens automatically win 100%. That's not kind of my philosophy on this. But if the question is, can the Ravens compete? Can the Ravens contend? Can the Ravens beat the Chiefs and the Bills? The Ravens can beat any team in the NFL. That is not a question. I don't understand that. This notion that Lamar Jackson, that the Ravens defense, that the Ravens run game, that the Ravens, wide receivers, that they can't beat other teams. They do beat other teams. They consistently win. One of the worst rosters, I think, in the NFL to have a winning record. The worst roster in the NFL to have a winning record is probably the Tennessee Titans. But what do? They do 2 things. They run the ball very well, and they play very physical football. What does that do to the opponent? It wears them down. It controls the clock, reducing the amount of possessions, meaning when you're physical, you're going to tire them out. And when you're running the ball well, they can't get the ball back. So if they make mistakes because they're tired, because they weren't ready for the physicality, especially early in the game, they are going to capitalize. That is how the Tennessee Titans win football games. The Baltimore Ravens are trying to play in that exact same style. All right? You look back to the early 2000s, it's the same way both of those teams played back then. Right? It was Eddie George and the Titans defense against Jamal Lewis and the Ravens defense. The two best defenses in the NFL, two of the best running games in the NFL. You fast forward 20 years, same exact thing. Probably the two best run games in the NFL and two of the best defenses in the NFL. And the Titans don't have a great roster. They don't have a great defensive roster, but they play hard, they play physical, and they're able to stifle teams. And you got to give a lot of credit to Mike Vrabel on that. And their defensive coordinator. I do not know who their defensive coordinator is right now, but credit to them because they do a very good job with that defense. The Ravens are playing games to reduce possessions. They're playing games to play physical, and the Ravens defense is very, very good. Very, very good. That's not a good word for it. I would say elite. Top 3 in the NFL. Stifling. They are so difficult to score on. This is before we get back Marcus Peters. This is before David Ojabo really gets his feet back. Or I'm sorry. Well, yeah, David Ojabo gets his, feet under him coming into the NFL. Tyus Bowser gets his feet back. Roquan Smith can, fully grasp the playbook. I understand if people are making rankings in the AFC and they put Ravens 3. Maybe they even put Ravens 4. If you put the Dolphins over the Ravens, I'm not going to fault you because the Dolphins beat the Ravens. All right. And, I'm not going to get upset at that. But this idea, I get upset at the idea that the Ravens can't beat the teams that you may rank ahead of them or they can't contend with them. My question to anyone who believes that is why? What is the idea that would make you say, this is why the Ravens can't beat this team? Because I think it's very clear when you watch the Baltimore Ravens, they can beat any team in the NFL. Again, it's not saying they're going to win 100% of the time. That's not saying they're perfect. That's not saying that the Chiefs should be favored in a game or that the Bills shouldn't be favored against the Ravens. They probably should. But I think if the Ravens played the Bills 100 times, the Ravens would win at least 30, right? And if you're winning 30% of the matchups, I feel like that means you can beat them. I think it'd probably be a similar number with the Chiefs. They may not win, they may not even win half the time. And I may be lowballing that number. It may be closer to 50%. But that's still being able to contend, right? Like a team like, I'll say a really bad team this year is, a team like, man, there's really not that many really bad teams. I know the Raiders actually have a good roster, so I feel like they could still beat anybody. But, we'll say the Steelers without TJ Watt, right? TJ Watt's an ultimate X factor. But when the Steelers don't have TJ Watt, they don't have a chance against the Chiefs. They don't have a chance against the Bills. They don't have a chance against the Ravens. They don't have a chance against the, you can say the Vikings or the Eagles. That's different. They may win 1 out of 100 games, 2 out of 100. I would say you can't beat them. You can't compete with them. But it's so wild to me that after all the success the Ravens have had, there's still questions as to whether they can be in the game with the elite teams. It's like, what do you mean be in the game? They're always in the game against the elite teams. Always. Even when they've lost, even when Lamar Jackson has lost, it's always ended up being close. Even the LA Chargers game, his rookie year in the playoffs, I believe the Ravens were down by 8. Lamar Jackson had the ball in his hands down by 8 in a final drive. They were a drive away from tying that game. Against the Tennessee Titans, they brought that game back, and it was close. Even though it was a terrible performance, you could play 100 games, and those would be the 2 worst performances the Ravens could have. And they were still close. They're not losing by 40. Right? They're not getting just utterly blown out. like we've seen from some teams, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers, when they made the playoffs starting 11-0, they played against the Browns, they got demolished. That's not the Ravens. Just frustrating. Sorry for the kind of the rant video, and just like, it's like, I feel like it should be, again, I don't care if you rank those teams, if you think those teams are better. If you think Josh Allen, if you think Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson, I'm not going to disagree with you. That's a fine take. But the idea that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens can't compete with those teams, it's a bad take. That's really all that I can say. It's a bad take. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for daily Ravens content, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.